Well, John, appreciate you taking the time. And I always ask former players, some minor league stories, but for you, different background, getting into the reporting field, and for your love of the game of baseball, do you have a moment that still sticks out to you all these years later?
Sure, Ryan, and thanks for having me on the show today. I'll go back to last November. I was covering the Premier 12 tournament in Taiwan. So the Premier 12 is the second biggest international competition after the World Baseball Classic. It's basically the WBC minus the major league 40-man players. So in many ways, the best players from NPB, from KBO, from CPBL, and then the U.S. team is usually a lot of either veterans, like Rich Hill played for the U.S., or then minor leaguers. Matt Shaw, Chandler Simpson, Drake Baldwin was on that team. So guys that we now know as productive major league players who were still not yet on the 40-man were playing for Team USA. So the tournament last year began in Taiwan. So I spent a week in Taiwan, then a week in Japan. And we had 1 half day off in the midst of the tournament. And Tyler Maughan's a great broadcaster. And so we took a train from central Taipei to the little coastal fishing area, cultural spot of Tamshui, which there's a little university there. It's a fascinating place that has a lot of different cultural influences. And so it's basically at the far northwest extreme of the island of Taiwan. You basically, when you've taken the train there and you get off, you're smelling the sea air. You realize that you have gone as far as you can go. There is no other place you can go on that island. The Straits of Taiwan are right there, so you are there. And so Tyler and I are walking around. We had a great lunch. We're walking towards the university, and there's this big open field. And I noticed this group of kids, probably 14, 15 years old, I'm guessing, and they're in this big open field, and they're doing first and third drills. And I thought to myself, I am on the other side of the world. I have gone as far as I can go. And at the end of this land, I have found kids doing the same first and third drills that my friends and I were doing playing Pony League baseball in Essexville, Michigan. And that to me, Ryan, just speaks to both how big and how small the world is, how much the game connects us. And certainly I'm hearing the catcher call out the signals. Okay, cut 4. Obviously it's all in Mandarin, so I'm assuming that's what they're saying. But it was just one of those cool moments where you're in a different place, but what you're seeing is very familiar. And if you pay close enough attention in baseball, the game and the life of someone in baseball will give you moments like this to step back and appreciate and say, wow, what a great bonding element this game is for the world, not just for Americans, not for anybody individually. The game belongs to everybody. And it was a pretty cool moment of appreciation there.
That's amazing. And sports in general bring people together, but then baseball, unlike some other sports where it can be dominant in certain regions, baseball is international. Mm-hmm. And I'm picturing these drills, John, because you know what? I did those same drills growing up time and time again. And I just was talking to my Uncle Bill yesterday, and we talk about the game. And you can speak a different language, but the concepts are the same. Can you pitch? Can you catch? Can you score more runs than the other team? Can you play defense? Can you know how to execute? And if you do that across any language barrier, that's going to lead to success. So that's amazing, John. And since I just did talk to my Uncle Bill recently, and we're in Maryland, you got to shoot it to me straight now, okay? Because people are starting to have too much hope here now, John. But the Orioles have won 4 in a row. They got a deep hole they got to climb out of. But as Lloyd Christmas would say in Dumb and Dumber, John, are you telling me there's a chance here that the Orioles still, with over 100 games, could get hot here and get back in the mix?
I'm not there yet, Ryan. I'm not going to say that the season is over, because it's not. There's a lot of baseball to be played. But I would need to see them get a lot closer to 500 before I declare that they're back. Mm-hmm. They need to do a lot of winning for about the next month before I could declare that they're back in the hunt. It's just the mathematics. It's amazing how the game works, Ryan, that when you start as badly as they have started, it is really difficult to get back into the postseason conversation. It's not impossible, but it's really difficult. And if you look at the numbers, playoff probabilities, et cetera, they would echo that reality. It's just with the way the schedule works, you're now trying to gain ground on 4 teams every night, and often they're playing each other, so you definitionally cannot do that. So I believe it's going to be too tough of a task for them to get back into the race. I think what Oriole fans honestly should hope for is that they're able to put together a competitive final 4 months of the season, give you good reasons to come to Camden Yards and watch this team play, and with your pending free agents like O'Hearn, like Mullins, that probably you should trade them, Sugano as well, and bring back some pitching that can help you for next year's rotation. And I believe that's probably where the front office is going to land on this, because Mike Elias is a development-oriented executive. And you look at this team, Ryan, and the big question I have is this the year that if you're the Baltimore Orioles that you should be chasing a championship? Is this the year? And I would say probably not. He was Mike Elias last year when there was a much better opportunity, was fairly conservative in the moves that he made. So the notion that he's going to go against the grain in a more aggressive angle now when the evidence suggests that the team is not that good would just be a really surprising result for me. And so I think that what he needs to do is really take a firm look at the 2026 depth chart and say, are we going to go out there and spend top dollar for the best pitching out there in free agency, which they didn't do last offseason? Are we going to do that? Or are we going to use the assets that we have to bring in the best major league ready pitching that we can in trades for people like O'Hearn and Mullins and Sugano? That's what this feels like for me. I know it's not probably the answer that Orioles fans want me to give right now, but that's what I'm seeing at the moment.
Hey, like you said, it's like a 2% chance going into yesterday, where they now moved to 13 games under 500 and still are 9 games back in the wild card. But for the optimists out there, John, if the Orioles, if you count last night, if they over the next 50 games, which would put them right around the deadline, were to go 32-18, that'd be a win clip over 600. That would put them back at 500. But like we've seen in the past, is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. Is it going to be a heck of a challenge? Yes, but you just brought something up about trade pieces. And I go back and forth with this, John, where I'm big on the undervalue of having veteran presence on your team, guys that want to be a part of your culture and ball club. And so that's why I'm fixated on Ryan O'Hearn. I understand the conversations with Cedric and Sugano. Pitching's going to be of need. And all of these guys are going to be pending free agents. But I guess at what point do you think they need to have – there should be a line in the sand, I should say, because I think that one thing Baltimore has struggled with has been creating an identity, which they really haven't really embraced since the 2023 season.
It's a very good point. And I guess the way I would answer that, Ryan, is that if you can get O'Hearn signed at a number that you like, go for it. Do it. Because I agree. In terms of a consistent power bat, he is as important as anybody else in this entire Baltimore lineup, and it's been so consistent this season. So as a result, I would fully endorse. If you can get him signed, by all means, do it. But if you can't get him signed, I think that the decision is basically made for you. Because again, you look at next year's rotation, and you follow this team more closely than I do. Who do you know? Who do you know for sure is healthy and under contract and ready to go for next year's rotation in Baltimore?
Yeah. Well,
maybe
they're coming off injuries too, so there's the question marks. You expect Kyle Bradish to be back, right?
Right.
But I see your point. There is a lot of digging that they're going to have to do and decisions that they're going to have to make. I think it's just that they've had so much instability, I guess, with some of those veteran parts where it's you either got to go get a stopper, which you're saying, like we'll say an ace, a stopper that you can count on. But you also need to have a stabilizer. And I think that's where Baltimore underestimated things. So
correct. Yeah, you're exactly right, Ryan. And I think they miss what they had with Burns. And obviously there's been some bad luck there. There's no question about it. But for me, the lesson of the Orioles now is really for 29 other teams, which is when your young position player group is there and is ready to win, which certainly they were a year ago and probably 2 years ago too, that's when you've got to go all in and get as much good, healthy pitching as you can. That it's really impact pitching, because there is no guarantee. Even, Ryan, they would say, many people in the game would say, one of the surest things going is when you get a core of young, controllable, inexpensive players. That gives you the best chance to be good every year. But best chance does not mean guarantee. And this year's reminded us of that when you are like what the Tigers are right now, whatever you feel like that last missing piece is, when you're like Seattle now, for example, when Cal Raleigh having this amazing season, but George Kirby having some issues bouncing back and being himself, that's when you really have to be aggressive. I would expect the Tigers and the Mariners to be aggressive in a way that, candidly, the Orioles weren't last year. And that's what the lesson is for me. It's that when far more important than quote unquote capitalizing when you're not having a good year by selling the proper assets, if you will, is that when you are having a good year, that you double down, that you do what the Royals did 10 years ago. And yeah, they had to give up Sean Manaea and some really good players in the trades for Ben Zobrist and Johnny Cueto. But they would do that again in a heartbeat because they knew it gave them the best chance to win the World Series, which ultimately they did.
That's what everyone wants to do, right? That's the goal, especially for a team. And for Seattle, you talk about a team out there, never even been to the World Series, let alone win it. And you got to take your moments. So I'm curious what will happen there. And the final topic, though, because we're on this topic of sellers, but if you're not going to necessarily sell, which we're hearing, for staying in the American League East for a second, or American League in general, the Red Sox, they're struggling. Alex Cora said it again after the game, but we're not getting better. You know, you can see that there's turmoil in the Devers situation, whether doesn't seem like it's impacting his play, but the team isn't playing well. Now you're hearing comments about Jarren Duran could be a piece on the move if they choose to give him up. Or maybe there's another option here, John. And the reason I bring that up is because the Royals just brought up their super prospect in Jack Caglione. And although he went hitless, Bobby Witt Jr. talking after the game goes, that's a big leaguer in the lineup, and we feel energized knowing we have him there. The Red Sox have a guy down in AAA that looks like he's ready, John, and Roman Anthony. You know, so in your opinion, can a move like that spark a team like Boston and bringing Roman up like Jack could be for the Royals? Or should Boston or some of these other teams really have to think big picture here and might have to kind of reset like you were suggesting with Baltimore?
Yeah, Ryan, it's a really important topic. And my recommendation to the Red Sox, if they ask me, would be before you take the team apart, call up one of your best players. At the end of the day, if the question were put to Red Sox management, you've got, so on a 26-man roster, maybe 13 position players, is Roman Anthony one of the best 13 position players in the employ of the Boston Red Sox? And the answer is undoubtedly yes. You are not a team that is trying to save a dime here and there. You are the Boston Red Sox, okay? And regardless of what it means for his service time, arbitration, et cetera, I understand there are some complexities with respect to how the lineup looks and where he might play. He needs to be on the Major League roster, period. And I think part of it is they love the defense that Rafaela brings in center field. I think that's been a big part of it, where they've been a little reluctant to move around the outfield mix because of how important Rafaela's defense is, and I get that too. And to your point, Duran is there. Maybe Duran becomes a chip for them to bring back other areas of need, maybe even a starting pitcher at some point. I think that might be part of the reason why there's been the conversation about potentially trading Jaron. But I think right now Anthony would give you more. And again, it doesn't have to be this way, Ryan, but you've been around the game for your entire life. Sometimes making a move and just changing the energy around the club has a value. And it similarly to firing a manager, when you make a big move, and calling up Anthony would be a big move, I think it would both make the lineup better and also change the energy around the club a little bit. He deserves a call up. He's played that well. I think at this point, before you take the team apart, at least give Anthony a chance, even though I acknowledge for the Red Sox, it's not as though it's as easy of a direct path to changing the everyday lineup, because who's going to sit? Who are you going to send down? And the ongoing complexity of Devers not playing first base and occupying the DH spot is part of the conversation, okay? Because now if you don't have the ability to rotate someone through the DH spot because Rafi has it every day. So it's a complicated team, and there's a reason why they're a lot closer to the Orioles than they are to first place in the American League East.
Yeah, obviously two of the teams that have been disappointing, and the Red Sox were considered a dark horse, right, to win the division, maybe make a run to the postseason. Long season ahead, but not what they expected. But we do know prospects coming up can jolt a team. Doesn't always mean that you're going to bring that energy. That's why I tell Orioles fans, be patient with Sam Basayo. His time will come. But for the Red Sox, it looks like Roman Anthony. John, I think something's going to happen here soon. Every time you and I talk, something happens. Last time I had you on, Juan Soto signed with the Mets.
Right.
We were having dinner. So maybe lightning's going to strike twice here. But, John, you're everywhere. For people that want to find what you're doing besides on MLB Network, where can they find you?
I appreciate it, Ryan. On X and on Threads at Jon Morosi. Certainly there'll be a lot of trade deadline related content from me in the coming days and weeks. One of my favorite times of the year. We do have our MLB Network Showcase game. This is Wednesday, the Dodgers and Mets here in Los Angeles. And then next week, our showcase game is the Royals and the Yankees. And yes, I want to credit our coordinating producer, Chris Pfeiffer. I'm sure when he set the schedule, he knew that Jack Caglianone was going to get called up right around this time. So next Thursday is our showcase game. Caglianone, Judge, some serious power hitting in that matchup next week at Kauffman Stadium.
Well, it seems like the perfect time for a showcase game then, John. Well, hey, I appreciate it. I know you're running around, so thank you for the time. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, Ryan. All the best to you and your family. Always enjoy catching up and looking forward to the next time.
Thank you.